Hello, hello, hello. Can I welcome you all to Ovale number 673. It's lovely being here. I have to stretch my eyes. Sorry about that. Yes, lovely seeing you all and our participants on Zoom as well. Absolutely welcome, everybody. So for those of you who haven't been to Ovale, the event is split into 4, sometimes even 5 parts. The poetry films that we watched at the start, and second, this 5-word challenge, which I will explain later for those that haven't been here before, and then the guest poets. We will have tonight Rosamund Taylor and Richie Mccaffrey, who's already here. Rosamund is on the way. For the Zoom participants, I'd like to say that, I can look into that camera. We use the chat window for general comments. Attendees can use the chat drop-down list for private messaging between individuals. And if needs be, participants are asked to regulate their own audio and background noise to ensure that it's not too intrusive. And we will also do our best to keep everyone muted while you're not reading. So we kick it off with the 5-word challenge. And the 5-word challenge is basically we gather 5 words from the audience, including the Zoomers, and we can write a piece of poetry on that. And then afterwards, after 15 minutes of writing time, you are invited to come to the mic and present those pieces. And whoever gets the loudest clap in the room and the most votes from Zoom will get a set of books that we have here. So there's actually 4 this time. Beautiful colors involved. John Mee there, and the anthology, the 5 words, John Fitzgerald and Grace Willens. So that's the books that you get as a prize, plus a drink from the bar or from your own fridge. We have come to know through Zoom. Can I please ask the Zoom people to write in 5 words plus a suggestion of a word, and we can start gathering in the room. So let's see. Can I have a word, please?
Swallow.
Okay.
Splash.
We have visions from Alexandra.
Yes, that's swallow, splash, visions. That's 3. We need 2 more.
Coattails from Fiona.
Coattails. Is that 1 word or 2?
Hyphenated, so we'll make it 1.
Okay. Coattails. And then a number 4. 1 more word.
Chair.
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 Share.
Chair.
Sharing is caring. Okay. So we have swallow, splash, visions, coattails, and share. So you have 15 minutes to write. After 15 minutes, I'll be calling you to the mic. And until then, we'll keep it nice and quiet. Right. So 15 minutes are rounded up. My poem won't be counted anyway, but it offers itself as a good introduction to before we kick off the microphone for the 5-word challenge. So I'm just going to read it here. This is mine. I came out of the pub to watch the party. None existed. So I swallowed my excitement, quelled my visions of dancing in the street, patted down my coattails, and went back inside. Now, as silence settles in the bar, heads bent over paper, the character in the street roars his drunken anger out, trying to extend the party of the busker who played for the tourists. A splash of smiles, now that concentration falls like snow, and silence finally allows us to write before we step up to the mic to share our new creations. Welcome to the 5-word challenge. And please come forward if you want to present your poem and let me know your name so I can write it down, please. And the Zoomers, please type your name into the chat, and Paul will make sure that I feed you in to the lineup. So what's your name, Paul?
So, my name's Cathal, and this is Domesticated Lawns. As the swallow continues to splash about, to wash the impurities within and without, these Sunday morning visions inhibit all other senses, white picket fences surrounding domesticated lawns. They trap us by our coattails and curtails us. Bound by stocks and shares, we daren't dream outside the box, because if we blow our lids, there will be no stop to the feelings we hid.
Right, good.
The lonesome swallow, adrift upon the succulent summer breeze, passing the kite on its strings of mortality. What are these but visions to the eyes behind the sight, visions of a single bloody score to settle? The coattails forked behind the fine fellow, the gentle predator seeking his prey. Below one hunter stands another, The light of day that shone on nature now glances off the barrel of no mercy. The red coat seeks that streak of red wing. The kite dives for a splash of brown. Two victims to fall, to bullet, to beak. The swallow turns aside from both. No score against him stands. What goes on defies his withered wing.
Well done for the applause. I forgot to say earlier that your applause decides who's the winner. So, listen, did I forget or did I just? No, I didn't forget. Good, good. We're going to go to Zoom for Alexandra, please.
Visions of swallows on a summer night, coat tails splashed in colours bright. Visions of swallows on a winter night, coat tails sharing black and white. That was it.
Hi, this is Antonio, and my poem is called "The Perfect Wedding." Colored balloons up in the sky share the flight with a brave swallow. Together they turn and smash the clouds like cut tails. The clouds, disturbed, react with the thunder, powerful enough to cause the perfect wedding between the explosion of the sky, visions of fire, and the splash subverted of the sea. Thank you.
So I always seem to go to dark places when I do these quickly. I've done that yet again. No title for this. Fell from my chair in a splash of soft violence. Lost in my coattails, now over my head. In a fit of madness, I pulled at buttons for freedom. My chest now bared, I shiver in cold sweat. My tattoos of angels and swallows look ready to fly, yet I couldn't escape these visions, these dark visions of fate. And I closed my eyes tight into a mantra repeated, until calm found me again and the storm had passed, leaving only this memory I share with you now. Thanks.
Passing on, and I'll dedicate this to my friend Michelle Carey Elwood, who's in the process of passing away in hospital at the moment. I would share the last splash of wine with you, would even share each swallow, if it were possible. I sway to visions of your coattails floating on the sea as you walk elegantly into the unknown. May you laugh hard in your new home and dance deep. Sorry, I didn't think I'd cry.
Swallows build nests above the money tolls of the M50. On the motorway to Dublin, pickpocketing €2 splashed into the machine, thank you. Swallows build nests in my coattails, sharing space in all four pockets. Dirt, hay, web, and sands, must be careful where I put my hands. Swallows build nests in my head, or at least I think they have. My vision makes it hard. My vision is blurred and makes me hard to swallow. Makes me dream I'm tripping down to Africa. I swoop, fly, arc around, nearly miss the windows. I land in another mud nest, far away, anywhere.
This one doesn't have a title. A vision of my youth, a decorated haunting that lurks in the in-between knittings of my psyche. A swallow, smooth-bodied and small, a wisp of something not quite earth and not quite sky, splashing against an airborne sea of cerulean. Its ashy brown wings clasped together like hands that have known each other for so long, straining effortlessly against shivering winds. A mother yanking on coattails, soft, nimble fingers pulling order into the chaos of a child. The shared wholeness that pieced together shattered stillness. The feeling of warm hands tucked in cold ones, while swallows dance in calmer seas than ours.
We're going over to Zoom to Fionn, please.
Hi, here we go. What does the swallow see when it flies, sleeping with one eye open? I try to simulate swallow visions by cycling with one eye open, one hand on the handlebar, one leg on the pedal, one buttock on the saddle, one knee in the bush of the privet hedge I now share with a family of sparrows, chirping madly as I conclude that birds have bigger brains than I, as I splash about, attempting to extricate myself, my bicycle, my dignity from the hedge. It's too late. Bruno the dog has got his teeth around my coattails, and he won't be reasoned with. Thank you.
There's some more in the room. I've seen so many people write. Come forth, come forth.
Bird of a feather, flock together, fly under the shared sky. You bird of a feather ever enjoy the same weather? Sometimes, under the orderly mantle is hidden a lie. The span of the wings might be similar, but the winds, they differ from a bird to another. One that leads may not hear the wind sing the way the one in its coattail. And such a way is bird politics. Do not listen to the calls of the crows. Look for the wing flaps of the sparrows. Check for the swallowtails. Watch how they swirl, and how when they pass their prime, how they fail. Because like the lies they tell, they are feather light. There won't be a splash where they crash.
Right. Anyone else in the room who wrote on the 5 words and would like to come forward? Rosie.
No. This silence, all the more for the absence of music. There were no coattails, no faces beaming in the wings, just solitary bystanders, their shared vision in a street doorway. I splash whiskey in a glass. My throat contemplates words. This silence, his, a hard act to swallow, or am I? I have never paid for silence before.
Is that all on Zoom as well? Any more takers on Zoom? Paul hasn't passed me any further names. Did we miss someone? Kieran, fill in the blank.
The best thing about rhythm is that you can break it up, make it rough if you get stuck, not strong-armed into stick or twist. It's not all lead and follow. Breathe deep, gargle, and let it drip when asked to spit or swallow. Listen to the murmur in your pulse, the skip beat that teaches you consistency, the far reach that revels in your intimacy, the ages spent hanging on the coattails of your infancy, the complex with visions of simplicity, the choke in the chant dispels the monotony. Pick how to invest in your share of autonomy. Nothing fell wet without a splash. Thanks.
Wow, thanks everyone. Anyone else who would like to present? Okay, so I think we shall call it. We shall call it. So can the Zoomers please type the names of the winners into the chat? And between that and the clapometer, we'll figure out a winner. We'll give that process a little bit of time. Right, so between the Zoom room and the clapometer, we have come to a conclusion. It was actually quite close between two people, but actually the loudest claps in the room, and that was the strongest of the votes, was Abigail. Abigail, you now have to come forth and read your poem again to claim your prize. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that earlier.
Here it goes again. A vision of my youth, a decorated haunting that lurks in the in-between knittings of my psyche. A swallow, smooth-bodied and small, a wisp of something not quite earth and not quite sky, splashing against an airborne sea of cerulean. Its ashy brown wings clasped together, like hands that have known each other for so long, straining effortlessly against shivering winds. A mother yanking on coattails, soft, nimble fingers pulling order into the chaos of a child. The shared wholeness that pieced together shattered stillness. The feeling of warm hands tucked in cold ones, while swallows dance in calmer seas than ours.
Well done, Abigail. Don't forget to order the drink of your choice, and I'll pass these over to you now. Here you go. Right. Okay. So, without further ado, our 10-minute break will be after the guest poets. We will now continue on towards the guest poet part of the night. Before that happens, I have a few announcements for us. And it starts right there. First, I need to say, Ovail aims to maintain a safe space for writers and attendees and subscribes to the Arts Council's Equality, Diversity and Inclusion policy. So we ask participants to maintain respectful when communicating and to report any offensive behavior to Ovail, please. The 10th 5 Words International Poetry Competition continues, and because we are all here on this Monday, we get an early insight into the words that are coming up for the 5th to 12th of July. And the 5 words for that week are fire, sparrow, symbol, bleed, and shade. I can repeat those: fire, sparrow, symbol, bleed, and shade. The 10th Ovail Poetry Film Competition is open for entries until the 31st of August. For more information, visit ovail.ie. Please be aware that from now on the event is recorded and will be available to revisit as an MP3 podcast and on Vimeo via vimeo.com/ovail. Our featured guests on Monday, 8th August, that's next month, for Ovail's annual Cork Coventry Twin Cities Poetry Exchange are Susanna Crawford and John Berner, both in person. All are welcome to attend in person or online. If you'd like to participate via Zoom, please email info@ovail.ie. Don't forget, Lime Square Poets are online every Thursday evening at 7:45 p.m. You can find them on Facebook or at limesquarepoets.com. And on Thursday, the 28th of July, they will be holding their first in-person event with Kathy Carson as a guest. Thank you to everyone who has kindly offered donations. Our donation jar is near the horse's head. If Julie can kick it off, please, in the room. And PayPal donations can be made via the link above the live poetry stage. Via the link above the live poetry stage on our website, or via the contact page of Ovail, so www.ovail.ie/blog/contact-us. Without further ado, I can now introduce our guest poets. Our first guest poet is not here yet, so we will flip the running order around, and we will start with Richie Mccaffrey, who is on Zoom with us. Richie Mccaffrey lives in, I hope I pronounced this word right, Warkworth?
Yep.
Northumberland, and is the author of 4 poetry pamphlets, including, I keep bumping into this, I'm very sorry, including Spinning Plates, Happenstance Press 2012, and First Hair, Mariscat Press 2020. He's published 2 book-length collections, both with 9 Arcs Press. One is called Cairn in 2014 and Passport 2018, with a 3rd collection, Summer/Break, due in 2022 from Shoestring Press. As an editor, he published Finishing the Picture, collected poems of Ian Abbott, Kennedy and Boyd 2015. The Tiny Talent, selected poems by Joan Ewer, Ray Editions 2018, and Sidney Goodsir Smith, essays on his life and work by Brill 2020. For more about Richie, please visit richiemccaffreypoetry.wordpress.com. And I will introduce our second guest poet when she's up.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
You can all hear me. Yeah. Oh, good. No, it's a great privilege to be here, and actually, the book does exist. Summer Break does exist as a book, so I'm going to take this opportunity to read from that book, if that's okay.
Done.
It really took shape because I had a long-term relationship that came aground during COVID, and I'd lived abroad in Belgium for a long time, and I wrote these poems when we came back to Northumberland. It was like this great homecoming. So I was full of these love poems. So I wrote those, and then COVID came along, and we did quite well with COVID, and then eventually it put just an intolerable strain on our relationship. So I wrote this poem. So summer is obviously the heaven aspect. The little slash is the sort of purgatory limbo aspect, and break is obviously the break up, the hell aspect. So I'm just going to read a smattering from all of them, if that's okay. I'll read it in chronological order as well. So the first poem is called Out of the Blue. She left me at the height of nesting season, birds building while I was dismantling my home. She left me as brambles we'd planted were fruiting, their berries tart like the metal of front door keys. She left me, and I walked down the garden path for the last time, confettied with blossom. The petals like plectrums, as if one day I might learn to make music from all this. So now we're going into the summer section. That was the prelude poem. So the first poem is Coping Stones. Coping stones, I use a lot of architectural terminology in my poems, but the coping stones are, I hope I'm not patronizing anybody, but they're the ones that cap walls off, those nice stones that you put on the top of walls. Coping stones. All around the edge of the estate, hand-hewn 18th century masonry, capping tall sandstone walls. I remember seeing the foundations and crypt of a medieval church built from rubble of a Roman temple. So it stands to reason that should these high walls fall, we could salvage the top stonework to make a home where we would weather it all out. Nothing could get to us in our house of coping stones. The next poem, incidentally, also has an architectural term. I think the proper term for it is called a patras plate. It's when you have an old building that's about to fall down and you put a big steel beam going through it. And quite often you can tell a building that's been sort of supported because it's got this sort of S shape, sort of like a metal plate. So this is called anchor. We had a time cutting your hair in lockdown. Russet curls all over the patio, left them for the birds and their nests. But it struck me that they all spelled the initial of your name, S for Steph. How you sometimes see that shape on the side of old buildings, a wall anchor securing a steel beam that gives a spine to a weak edifice, and how you, in your way, go through my life doing the same. I know that the late Kieran Carson was a huge fountain pen collector, and I also collect fountain pens, and I like to use them. And this is a love poem about fountain pens. Le Merle Blanc. Made in England, the Blackbird fountain pen was also exported to Belgium as Le Merle Blanc, white blackbird. The one I write with was your grandfather's, a gift for his first Holy Communion, and then for me, 7 decades later. Silenced by the war, its bladder burst, holding in unwritten secrets. Repaired, it writes in English instead. We are the produce of one nation packaged for another. And unlike the politics of our time, this pen's gold beak of a nib has such a beautiful flex to it. This is pretty much the first poem that I ever wrote, which was after somebody. It's based on quite closely based on a poem by Donald Hall. Not plagiaristically close, I hope, but this poem's called Circadian Rhythms. Most diaries would have had it blank. That day, we woke late. You fed the cat, I the birds. Then we made breakfast together. You had a shower, I had my bath. We read, we worked from home. We went for a walk to see a new fish pass on the river. You cooked lunch and I did dinner. You spoke Flemish online with family, and I stuck to English on the phone with my mother. The cat sat on each of our laps. We went to bed together, both asleep within minutes. It was one of the best days of my life. I love trees. I'm not quite a tree hugger, but I do love them. So this is a little bit of a tribute to a poem. This is a tribute to a cedar of Lebanon tree, which has been growing nearby where I live for a very long time. Cedar of Lebanon. We walk all the way uphill through Wooler to get to a giant Lebanese cedar. I could be a pilgrim if it's a journey to a special tree and nothing else. You recall the great groves in Lebanon as we stand underneath its huge prickly umbrella, gathering cones hard as green grenades that we take away to try and grow elsewhere, to be thrown into the future and explode in mushroom clouds of resinous canopies. And I could be a soldier if it only involved this task and nothing else. So there endeth the love section. So I'll just read a couple of poems from the sort of intermediary section. That's okay. This first one is called No Fellow Travellers, and it has an epigraph by C.S. Lewis, which is, those who are going nowhere can have no fellow travellers. One of the great accusations levelled at me when I started writing and I went to a creative writing club was, oh, here comes Richie again. He's got another poem about being in a graveyard. And luckily, this is the only poem about being in a graveyard in this collection. But here we go, No Fellow Travellers. On our way back from the beach, we stop at the village graveyard and find people we knew, whom we didn't think were dead. And we've still not got a good word for any of them. The stones face each other in rows in booth-style compartments in old trains. Most of these people lived half a mile from here, and now they couldn't be further away. But they're all arranged as if they're just trying to get home, and the train's waiting on a signal. I walk between them, an inspector in the aisles, who has realised all of his passengers are riding with expired tickets, but is too scared to call them all out. I sometimes think that I've had a midlife crisis a bit too early, so this poem's sort of from that. This poem's called The Folk. When the invitation to a high school reunion came to my door, I was on my knees in the garden of our cul-de-sac home. I was clearing a clogged gutter of dead leaves and found the best tool for the job was a sharp-pronged Georgian cutlery fork with a tapered deer antler handle. I briefly thought of going and then considered the shame of having to account for what I'd not become after showing such promise. When the Georgians made the fork long ago, I imagine they never expected it would end up here in my hand. Before them, it was the deer that never expected to be whittled to this hilt. And actually, on the topic of deer, I'll go into the final section, which is the break section. This is the first poem, and it's called The Stag. Takes time to keep things amicable. We go on long country walks we once did hand in hand, and walk for miles together, a metre apart. So soaked in our own pain, we barely notice a fallow deer stag grazing on nettles beside us. He looks in lofty pity and carries on with his stinging repast. We never married. I never was the stag. But this one's a saint for distracting us briefly. This awful day we walked to discuss the killing of a love that, had it been a deer, would have easily been a 16-pointer. I'm sure that the listeners of Ovale will know much better than I do. I mean, my family name McCaffery is obviously Irish, and I was once in the presence of a great Gaelic, not Gaelic, but Gaelic poet called Roddy Gorman, and he said, "What's your surname?" And I said, "McCaffery," and he said, "Oh, that's Gaelic for," and I'm sure everybody will correct me now, but it's Gaelic for the son of the jockey. So I don't know if that's true, but I wrote a poem around it anyway. So this is called The Jockey. A Scottish poet once told me my surname, McCaffrey, is a Gaelic patronymic, or a Gaelic patronymic, meaning the son of the jockey. As a youngster, I was good at riding ponies and steeds, though I never really much cared for the creatures. You really loved horses, but sadly they didn't love you back, kicking and throwing you off, breaking your leg and coccyx. In the months after you left, I imagine you as one trying to get back in shape after a long winter, losing whatever weight you gained to get fit for the race ahead, even if that weight might be me, the son of the jockey. I'll read. Yeah, I had problems with when I was a teenager. I had a eating disorder, and it's really only something that's resurfaced quite recently. So I got this poem which is about the breakup, but it's I apologize that it's not exactly an uplifting experience, but this is about the breakup, but also that feeding into it. So this poem is called Bad Fit. All my life, my body's been an enemy, wearing clothes too tight to halt any gain, suits unsuitable and shirts stifling me. Just before you left me for good, I noticed the Orcadian silver band you put on my finger over a decade ago had kept that digit thinner than the right-hand one, the skin underneath incorrupt as a relic. It's been off 2 months now and no longer fits at all. I'm reminded of the lime tree I planted in an old Belfast sink. The roots eventually fumbling escape through the plug hole, riveting the sink to earth at first, then breaking it in two. I'll just read two more. If I have the time, please tell me if I'm running out. This is a nice sort of Scottish word, but it also exists in Northumberland. Blaweary or Blaweary. Well, the explanations in the poem. Blaweary. It means tired of the wind. The name of the derelict farm on the moors built into the ruins of a Bronze Age burial cairn. We walked to it for the first time in 2020. I've not been back since. Remember the claggy tracks covered in the hoof prints of sheep, like the thumb marks of potters, making a bowl for us to save the memory of this day, should the wind try to blow it all away. And I'll finally end with the outro poem. I got the idea of having a prelude and a coda poem from reading the poetry collections of Michael Longley. There's usually like a poem in italics at the start and at the end, and I think it's a really nice way to ease people in and out of collections. So this is my outro poem. It's called Sermon. In the churchyard, the Red Admiral lands on the wall where I'm sitting. It perches with wings closed in a namaste. The wind keeps prizing it open, like pages in a book before the spine's broken. The stained glass of those wings takes me into the church, where a Bible with its hinges cracked is spread-eagled on a lectern at the same old passage. My father attends service here. I asked him what the sermon he just sat through was all about. He'd already forgotten, his brow in a furrow until it came back to him. It was about joy. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening to me.
Thanks a million, Richie. If you could hear the applause in the room, I hope you can hear as much of it as possible. And it's been a lovely, lovely reading. So thanks very much for your reading. And I'm now going to introduce our second guest poet of this week. She has arrived. Rosamund Taylor is among us. And yes, she is a winner of the London Magazine Poetry Prize 2020 and the Martine Crawford Award for Poetry 2017. Widely published, her work has recently appeared in Butcher's Dog, 14 Poems, Magma, MS Lexia, The Rialto, and Poetry Ireland Review. Her essays have appeared in Banshee and The Trumpet. A selection of her poems is included in Queering the Green, post-2000s Queer Irish Poetry by Lifeboat Press. Her new book is actually available right here in Cork, in Dubrays, and this is the book, In Her Jaws.
We have some copies here too.
Oh, that's even better. We have some copies here too, I hear. So this is Rosamund's debut collection, and it was published by Banshee Press in May 2022. So for more about Rosamund, either speak to her after the reading, or you can check her out online as well, rosamundtaylor.com. So very welcome, Rosamund. Big bulbas, and let's pick it up.
Hello, sorry
Sorry I was a bit late. That's not like me at all. But I heard all of Richie's reading, which was brilliant. It was really wonderful to hear his work. I really enjoyed it. So that was a treat. And thank you so much, everyone, for coming on such a warm day when you could be sitting by the river or something. We really appreciate you coming. So I'm going to read mostly from In Her Jaws. In Her Jaws begins with a quote from Sylvia Townsend Warner's novel, Lolly Willows. She says, "That's why we become witches, to show our scorn of pretending life's a safe business, to satisfy our passion for adventure." And that's kind of what this book is asking, why we become witches and what it means to be other. It's also about how life isn't really ever safe, and being alive means being vulnerable. And vulnerability is frightening, but it's also the only way we can meet the world honestly. And one of the figures who really captures that feeling for me is Joan of Arc. And I'm beginning with a poem about Joan of Arc, or Jeanne d'Arc as she was called, and how her experience of something that other people couldn't really easily understand led to her being seen as both a witch or a saint. And the title comes from something Jeanne d'Arc said at her trial. The light comes in the name of the voice. First the ash pile, fine white wood ash, grimy ice, a grey noon. The pigs, frost lacing the leaves. The girl with itchy thighs, cold nose. Then this moment, the voice, the light. The light, it did not flow like a shaft of sunlight, muted in water. It wasn't like snow, snow at dawn, the white flecks on a fox's tail as it scrambles in snow ferns. Nor like the flash of a stoat at dusk, overcoming a rabbit bigger than itself, though like the stoat, it held everything in its jaws. It wasn't even like moonlight, being 13, warm in a moonlit room, moon so full and bright, it lies in long white beams, white shadows on the skin, skin melting into shadows, as though there is no longer any space between self and moon. The light was only like itself, just as she was only Jeanne, her breath a shake in the frost. Then the light, the voice, always now, wordless and complete. She was questioned. At her trial, they asked, "Where does your voice come from? Do you hear it like you hear my voice? When do you hear it? Do you hear it now? Does it echo?" She couldn't answer. There were no answers, as there had been no songs, no angels, no shadows. Only light, the girl transformed by light. After the trial, it seemed to her that the light had always been full of the smell of herself burning. Her bursting lungs, her fried skin. The questions already licked her arms. Behind the voice, her ashes. And somewhere still she knelt by the pigsty, hands tense, as if searching for a sword. So I always feel a bit better when I read the first poem, but I'm still going to read my next poem is going to be about anxiety. Having anxiety can sometimes feel like you have to bring a really difficult pet with you everywhere you go, and this is about that. It's called Portrait of My Anxiety as an Imp. My imp comes with me everywhere I go. She tugs my hair and curls her silky tail so tight around my neck, she stops airflow.
When she's nervous, she chews my nails until they bleed. She's afraid on busy streets, in classrooms, and in pubs. She clawed free at the concert hall. She nipped people's feet and held as violins and cellos rose in key. Long ago, she survived in woods and fenland. She hid from falcons and relentless bears, sleeping in pine needles, shivering downwind. But now she's safe indoors. Foxes are scared, eagles poisoned. She still won't believe she's fine. There are no jaws waiting to snap her spine. So I really love nature and the natural world, as you'll probably tell from this reading. But since I was a child, I've always kind of had the feeling that wild spaces aren't necessarily safe. And it's usually because of other humans in them, not really other animals. Old Quarry. A child in my polyester uniform, I came here seeking a little vixen, imagining I'd tame her. Webs warped over the loom of brambles, hid beer cans in plastic bags. The all-night garage hummed. Petrol smell settled in leaf mold. But I listened to the conversations trees hold, the rippling of whispers from branch to root, layering through leaves. Pretending I was a mushroom growing in beech mast, in rhythm with the grey and tan striped spiders. I was sure one day the fox, her tidy face would peek from skeletons of purple loosestrife, and we'd play in the fuchsia together. Instead, underneath the wild crab apples, a man displayed his phallus to me. So the next one, I have a few poems about women who have an important place in history or are an important figure, like Joan of Arc. But this is a poem about a woman who happened to be kind to me at a time I was vulnerable. It's called Sandra. When I was a day patient, Sandra took me to the tea room and showed me where nurses hid the good biscuits, wafers and chocolate fingers. She told me if I was hearing voices to hold my phone to my ear and no one would guess who I was talking to. It used to be much harder to hide, she said. You'd have to wait till you found a phone booth. By then, the voice might be scolding your brain. She went outside to smoke, levering herself along on her walker. It was summer, the sky cloudless, and I ate a biscuit as a wasp fussed at the window. After weeks of whispers from shadows and seeing hanged men in stairwells, I worried I was just like Sandra. Holding my hot cup, I took comfort. Despite her bowed knees, her drool, her one eye was clear as God's. So in 2018, I was lucky enough to be a guest at the Irish citizenship ceremony when my wife became an Irish citizen. And it was a really amazing experience to be in this. We were in Killarney, and it was amazing to be in this really small place full of people from all over the world. And I wrote this to sort of try and capture that atmosphere. Postcard from Killarney, Irish citizenship ceremony, 2018. Outside Mallow train station, Milena practices the oath she'll swear to the Irish state. A thin rain works into our eyes, under our tongues. Around us, languages overlap. Urdu, Cantonese, Arabic, Czech. On the bus to Killarney, we crowd 3 to a row. I press cold face to cold window. Mist rolls into mist. Brown valleys whisper past us, hushed in leafless birches. Milena grips my hand. At the convention centre, queues coil back and forth through the car park. Water sloshes inside my boots. I'm tempted to join the Romanian family, nestling under 5 umbrellas. I used to ask Milena if she missed Gorzhov. As she rests her head on my shoulder, I know her answer. Small boy hurtles into our knees. We laugh and steady him. 2 questions echo all around. Where did you come from? How long did you wait? Okay, I'm just going to read 2 newer poems. I've never read them out loud before, so forgive me. We'll see what happens. So this first one is, it's called Earthly Paradise, and it's about a painting, sort of about a painting by Johann Wenzel Peter, who's an 18th century painter, and it's called Adam and Eve in Their Earthly Paradise. I was disappointed by the Sistine Chapel. There, I said it. Priests sashayed to microphones to intone, their voices echoing. This is a sacred place. Be quiet. It didn't feel sacred. Though winter, it was hot and close, the crowd jostling my ribs and hips. The ceiling blurred. Through binoculars, the Sibyl's hand came into focus, then her chest, like in a peep show. I was glad to escape to the corridor and breathe. I almost fell into the Garden of Eden. Color poured from the frame onto my sweaty face. Glasses slipping down my nose. I saw red monkeys, gold parrots. A child's paradise of creatures. Fat guinea pigs nestled by serene sheep. Peacock paraded past pelican, and heron and turkey and lioness. A camel eyed me, and I hoped she'd spit from her sensuous lips. This was why I'd come here, to be humbled like Adam and Eve by the wealth of what I'd been given. I've never told my dad that before, and he's here today, and I'm sure he's going to be very disappointed in me for not enjoying the Sistine Chapel, so it might be an awkward walk home. So this next one is also inspired by a painting by the artist Wilhelmina Barnes Graham, who's a English artist of the last century, and it's called Splintered Ice. And I saw it, and I've been thinking, especially during the first lockdown, I was thinking a lot about Greenland all the time. And as I was writing this, I was imagining what it would be like to be in Greenland with no canvas or paint or brush, but to try and paint what you were seeing. So it's called Painting the Last Glacier. Greenland shamans made living totems by copulating with piles of bones. Be this resourceful when you weave your canvas. Stars, holes punched in the seal skin of sky, leak light. It's sharp and brittle as rotting teeth, but weave this light into a canvas without letting it crumble to dust. A brush also takes imagination. Do you ever get migraines? They root deep in the spine, sending burning tentacles to each skull bone. Tug these threads out through the mouth. They are savage as dog whips, so gums will bleed, and lash them to a polar bear's ulna. This is your brush. Next, paint. You don't want the blue of snow gentians. Instead, take the last seal oil from the lamp, though there may be months to wait for sun return. Pour night too black for shadows over your canvas. Listen for the sound of ice cracking in answer. An opening jaw. I was going to read 2 more. Do I have time? Is that okay? You gave me a really nice clap, so I was like, oh, I should sit down. But I'm going to read 2 more. You'll notice I use the word jaw a lot, and if you call your collection in her jaws, I think you can get away with just having a verbal tick where you say jaws a lot, but I don't know what I'll do later. So I'm just going to read 2 more, which I've heard is one of the best things you can hear at a poetry reading. And I know we're all here to listen to poetry, but I will go away soon. So this one is called, I wanted to read a Cork poem, and this is Sheep's Head Peninsula, so set in West Cork. And it uses a couple of words of Irish Sign Language, because my wife is hard of hearing, and we were learning sign language together. So I'm going to show you the two words I use. Forgive me if these are very bad, but I was going to say, this one is dog, which is just patting your side, and this one is home. And this is Sheep's Head Peninsula. As I lie on my back in the dry grass, I watch bats disturb the stars. The night tastes of summer clams and dock leaves. Bats overhead taste flies and moths with their snouts and wings. I picture the word bat printed on a page. It's all wrong. Bat is movement, a flicker that for a moment erases part of the night. So many words are wrong. The closed letters of dog. Dog is snout and paw against my leg. The heaviness of home. Home is circles, joining. Sign was the first language. Before blurred lips began to speak, we opened our hands to invent a new world. I know this as I know night is better when words are erased, replaced by stars and bats and you. So I have some copies of this book if anyone would like it. And I'm going to read one last poem to my wife, which is also a little bit about Greenland. So we're keeping it cool on this warm day. It's called When My Wife is a Walrus. When my wife is a walrus, summer is one stretch of light. She sings and barks with the others on the pack ice. And in that moment, Greenland is eternal. No hunters come to carve her ivory into shoehorns, billiard balls, or cribbage boards. In each Polynia, the sea remains black and cold, and ice always thickens across the gulfs. Hungry, she whiskers the ocean's floor, finding oysters and bivalves. Afterwards, she hauls herself up to tenderly rub moustaches with me. Brine catches in her prickles as we knock tusks. Her ton of blubber joins mine in a rush of flippers, her eyes shining squid ink dark. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosamund. That was beautiful. Very, very nice. Thank you so much for the reading. Thanks again for both our guest poets. Let's give Richie another Budabas as well. We are now going to have a 10-minute break. And after that, we can kick off the open mic. During the time, I will pass around the open mic list in the room. On Zoom, you can put your names down with the tag open mic and your name. And yeah, we'll kick it off in 10 minutes. I'm very well. How are you, Mary?
Not too bad.
You want to be on the top of the list?
Oh, well, not quite at
Let's
the
do
top.
this side here. That's not this. This is the like that was for the fiber.
So, 1, 2. I'll go 3. I hope that no one will hope that other people will go before me.
Yes, there is one person on Zoom who wants to go. Who wants to go before everyone. So we'll start. Would you like me to sign?
You are well yourself?
I'm good, yeah. Anyway, having a good time, actually enjoying the summer very much.
Yeah, I am too.
Lots of positivity and yeah, lots of goodness.
And yours also is no, still no, nothing there.
I've decided not to give a shit for a while in order to be well.
Yeah, let her go, yeah. And then she'll come back in her own time.
I hope so, yeah, I hope Pass it around with the pen, please. Congratulations. Jet legs must be good for writing. Pass it round. I'm gonna take it to the.
New ones in that book. Can I, if you don't mind, can I take a picture of that book? Absolutely gorgeous. I think might be some inspiration for that. Because I love the use of language. I love the use of inspiration. I just take a picture of it.
you, thank you. Many Phillips Sorry, thank you very much. Lovely cover as well. I think Bob chopped up a few times in the poems of earlier. Thank you, some well done as well. Honor this week. Again, not open at times. Okay, no, I'm going to go on your list.
How many? Not that many. I didn't actually number it.
Fine, that's good. With these two, maybe put one there. So far, anyway. Stan actually connected from Chicago, but he's So, there's no rush because we can't leave it too long, obviously.
No, I'm just wondering, do I have just enough time for a tiny type of quick? I don't have anything green tobacco maybe, but it's a homeopathic. Yeah, that's what I did my mind. Yeah, as long as it's dry. Oh no, we're in Manhattan. It's not 11 kilometers by the highway anymore. It's just along the yeah, it's a lot safer. Okay,
Hilda finds it a bit hard. She's coming over.
No, I think that's a very good
Where did you drive from today? Did you drive all the way down?
We spent the day kind of morning to morning gardens. It's nice just to be down in this place.
That is indeed, and always like, yeah, I like it.
Are you living here long?
Yes, I've been here for 17 years now. Well,
are you in the city?
Slightly out of like 7 kilometers but it's the same thing. I used to be out of Carrick, which is a different story when it comes to connecting. Yeah, all the roads are connected, and by now they also have a bus that goes 24 hours all night every hour to Carrick. I got done because I am COVID from Carrick. So I missed that because it didn't allow me to come back home late. But actually, it is so nice to be able to cycle home or to take a cab and not pay for work. Yes, today is actually quite empty. It can be so packed in here some nights that people would be standing, and epic stew would be taken. Some people are that, and other people are probably just enjoying the summer on holidays wherever they are.
We get better quality in the winter.
Yeah. I mean, it fluctuates throughout the year. You know, it depends on what's happening. Oh, really? Wow. Well, I mean, Ovale is famous for the length of time that it's been running as well, and so it draws a lot of people. But it's also always a very crowd, so it depends, you know, who's around. It depends what's happening and who's around.
Will we start gathering again to our places, lads? Slowly but surely. Right. Have we got everyone here? Who wants to be reading? I just have to add one name that was told to me, so I'll just. You can. I'll put you on the list. Okay. And can you tell me your name?
I was traipsing outside, learning it off.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll call you out when the list is at your point. Okay. We're going to kick off tonight's open mic with Alexandra on Zoom.
Yes, you usually have beautiful visuals.
Hello, can everyone see the graphics going by?
Yes. Yeah.
No music today. Golden cords connecting us, golden cords surrounding us. Like the sparkling sunlight on the blue sea, like the sparkling sun waves on the sea sand. Divine help, divine forces flowing in. Our vibrations riding over the waves of life, bravely crossing all barriers. Singing a magnetizing melody on a hypnotizing journey. Turning the dark into light, turning the wrong into right. Knowing we can be free, knowing we are free. Free from all negative energy, free from all negative experiences. Golden cords connecting us, golden cords guiding us. Like glowing strands intertwining along our paths. Like glowing strands showing us our paths. Divine help, divine forces flowing in. Our vibrations, our energies, whirling, twirling, wings of the universe dancing freely between us, forming our world, forming the worlds around us, turning the dark into light, turning the imbalanced into balanced, knowing we can be free, knowing we are free, free from all lower sexual desires, free from all lower sexual encounters. Golden cords connecting us, golden cords attaching us, like two radiant flames dancing together, like two radiant soul flames flying together. Divine help, divine forces flowing in, our vibrations allowing us free to choose our own experiences, our own perceptions, allowing us free to move on, leaving old energies behind, trusting that everyone will be renewed, trusting that everything is being renewed, turning the dark into light, turning the non-understandable into understandable, knowing we can be free, knowing we are free, free from all detrimental patterns, free from all detrimental beliefs. Golden cords connecting us, golden cords nurturing us. Like a family wonderfully bonding, like butterflies fluttering in spring. Divine help, divine forces flowing in. Our highest vibrations, our highest energies, whirling, twirling, drifting freely on the currents of the universe, transforming our world, transforming the world around us, turning the dark into light, turning the non-believing into believing, knowing we can be free, knowing we are free, free from all worry and struggle, free from all misconception and doubt. Golden cords connecting us, golden cords uniting us, like the sacred heart flame, like the sacred soul flame. Divine help, divine forces flowing in, our vibrations strong and tender, taking us up our sweet magical worlds, strong and tender, taking us up our sweet blessed worlds, knowing that our visions will come true, knowing that our visions are coming true, turning the dark into light, turning the unhealthy into healthy, knowing we can be healed, knowing we are healed, healed from all bitterness and pain, healed from all hopelessness and regret. Only golden cords connecting us, only golden cords inspiring us, expecting magic, expecting blessings, expecting flying. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thanks very much. Next on the list, we have Cathal O'Brien, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cathal O'Brien Regan, and this is my first night here at the O'Vale. And with your permission, I'd like to do 3 poems. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so.
We'll do like 5 minutes max.
Okay. I'll do 2 poems. Okay. So, first of all, to understand a poet, you need to understand where they come from. So this poem is about how I view the world. And so this poem is called A Zoo to Me. Life is like a zoo. Well, at least to me. I'll explain. Have you been to a zoo, comrade? Tell me, what's the first thing you see? Do you start at the lions? Or do you start with something a bit more tame, a bit more mundane, like an emu? Have you ever seen one grin? Do you know why they would? Even though he's ostracized from the savannah to be protected in a country that's not home, I don't condone nor do I condemn. For what person am I to damn a worthy cause to fix the errors of men? We protect others from ourselves, and here the similarity takes place as we say face. So the destruction that we have caused previously will stick with us as another part of us tries to repair the damage we cause. With this, a Hippocratic situation forms. We monkey about with feelings without care. It's unfair, though we don't realize just how we got there. To weasel out of this is commonplace. Whereas, and true to form, whereas we should just grab the bull by its horns and get back on topic. So, I digress, because the point is moving at a snail's pace. I don't see the world like others, and perhaps that's for the best, as I can seem to make connections that would baffle the rest. But I wouldn't chalk it down to the survival of the fittest. But saying that opens up a can of worms that would prefer to be locked, like the topics we would like to bring up, yet deep down we should stop. Smile for others. put on a show. We swim, clap, dance, or sing to distract the world from the nature of our soul, the true purpose of what makes us whole. The fire of desire burns dim when constantly being compared to him or them. This survival of this society breeds a survival of the fittest attitude to serve their whim. For who will buy when buying is meaningless? They say money talks, that's why we call it a profit. The ones with the money and looks get it all for naught, while the rest struggle to get anything at all. For what? Well, I wouldn't say anything. We get jealous, don't we? I mean, who wouldn't want to have the best things that money can buy? I'd be lying if I said I don't, but there are things that take priority to be accepted by others without feeling inferiority. This is what I thought. This masking was what killed me. This self-proclaimed demon wrapped around my brain, I thought held sway upon who I was. The obsessions that occupied my time, the monologues and info dumps that were out before I could control my jaws. I scolded myself for that. Shouldn't have told people what I was interested in. What I was obsessed with, I pushed to the back. Whereas soccer and whatever else I cared not for returned to people's chat. I was born broken, I thought, like a cheap plastic toy shaken too much in the box. The emu, protected from the others. He isn't the prettiest bird. He can't fly or swim. He isn't as tall or as confident as him. But he isn't an ostrich. This emu's an emu. And that's why he grins. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Well done. The whole zoo with us now. Next up, we'll have Mary O'Connell.
Thanks, Sue. This is not a funny poem. It's rather a sad one in the sense that one has ideas and then things don't work out quite the way one expects. It's called Stalemate. With crunch of tires on gravel, the sleek Porsche noses forward. Her husband joins the mainstream while she moves back inside. She hears the bright good mornings ringing from nearby gardens, yet still refrains from playing the happy housewives game. Crossing the bare veranda to water her single crocus, she shivers as lemon sunlight rinses the polished tiles. Today is the day for shopping and cleaning out the pantry. Discipline and perfection have now become routine. Trapped at the checkout counter, she listens with strained politeness while neighbors loudly tell her that rain is on the way. They yap like happy puppies, inviting her to join them. But stiff with quiet boredom, she edges towards escape. The radio brings her comfort, plugging into networks of intimacy and action, putting her thoughts on hold. Yet this was the life she'd chosen when getting it right was vital. Now sensing the hissing silence, she learns there's a price to pay.
Wow, thanks very much, Mary. Thanks a million.
I'll leave, but thanks very much.
All right, thanks. We'll say another goodbye to Rosamund Taylor, please. The next name on the list is Daniel.
quick one. This is called Before Sound. Before everything, there was nothing. Out of that, eventually, came me. Introduced from silence into a world of chaos that gave me labels to help me know who I am or who they wanted me to be, so they could feel less confused in the echo of the void. And I learned to live within the definitions. I learned to speak with the names they assigned. And the language grew around me, and the voices sang their songs. And between the words, as we took a breath, for a brief second between the beats, it was quiet enough that I could finally see myself for what I'd always been, and I no longer needed to sing along.
Wow. Next up, Cédric.
Just for a quick introduction, this one I have been trying to find a way to write it after I had to go back to Cameroon for a send-off of the disease. Sorry, deceased, not the disease. And I had the opportunity to obviously, remember a lot of things from my past trip there. And one thing that really struck me was obviously the heat, because there it's warm, it's hot all the time. Even in what they call winter, we're talking 25 degrees Celsius at least. And also the smoke and the pollution. So just for a quick bit of detail, I used a word in a slightly different way because essence in French is gasoline, essentially. And I used it sort of that way, but in a loose way with the as a replacement in the English word. Maybe you get it, maybe you don't. I tried. So it's called thermomelancholy. Faith as a beating engine, the people here are crude oil dark, going up in smoke while the sun rises, before the heat and the smoldering sweat. They go about their lives in an oily, lazy haste. Time is of essence because all are running on fumes. The choreographed chaos of the working day stirs the smoke, air, and unburned gasoline into a smooth blend, perfect for the incomplete combustion of a population. Heart burned out from exploitation as thermal expansion of the day goes by. Their lives as fuel, survival as a pollution. The remaining people will blend back in the night with hope in tomorrows as a spark.
Thank you very much. Thanks a million, Cédric. Next name on the list is Philip Spillane.
Thank you very much. Sorry if I sound a bit tired. I just ran after a poet, so like literally just outside. So he got home okay, I suppose. This is to Ashanabel. I'm not allowed to tell you what that means, but maybe sometime you will. And it's called a Painted Lady, and that's a species of butterfly, but it's has a double meaning because she was a painted lady. Moon sets in the garden of your palms. Touch me wherever you want. It makes my skin switch season. Gently slide fingertips through the illustration of my veins. In return, I kiss every tattoo you awarded yourself Painted lady, flutter fingers, find some time to sleep. Thank you.
Hang on a minute, is there another Daniel in the house? Yeah, that's you then, Daniel O'Sullivan.
This is a short story called Precious Memories of the Oldest Enemies. Ken O'Callaghan and Oliver Lambert are two six-year students. Their favourite sport is athletics. They both specialise in the 200-metre sprint. And every year the school holds an athletics competition, and every year Ken and Oliver dominate the events. They have both won the 200 metres title on 3 occasions. Ken won it in first year, fourth year and fifth year, while Oliver won it in second year, third year and sixth year. So there is a sense of unfinished business reverberating around the school, and it's quickly becoming unavoidable. It's gotten to the stage where neither Ken nor Oliver can walk down the corridor of the school without murmurings from their fellow students. There is an awkward silence when they are in the vicinity, but that silence only makes the whisperings more permanent. The whispers are becoming more frequent and louder, and there is an overwhelming wondering amongst the entire school as to who the better man is. And it is as a result of that constant speculation which has led to this scenario. Ken and Oliver meet face to face in the school hall at lunchtime. Not a word has to be said. Everyone amongst the crowd of students are rooted to the spot in anticipation. Ken reaches his hand out to Oliver. A gasping sigh of bursting excitement fills the crowd. The audience are left captivated for several moments until Oliver locks hands with Ken. The roof lifts off the school at that moment as unparalleled elation rips through the world. Cheering from the crowd is overshadowed by cheering from the crowd, whilst Ken and Oliver remain staring at each other with unblinking focus. 2 weeks from this moment, the fate and legacy of the school era will appropriately be defined out in the schoolyard. All rules go out the window for Ken and Oliver in the lead up to this blockbuster as they train like demons. They eat, sleep, learn and train. That was their lives for every second right up until the last second. So the time had come, the talking was done, the preparation was over. This was it. Ken arrived to the school racetrack first. The crowd went into raptures when they saw him entering. He did not blink or bat an eye to the crowd. He walked with purpose towards the starting position on the track with the look of utter concentration bursting out of him. The instant Ken placed himself on the starting position on the track, rapturous applause exploded from the crowd as Oliver was seen arriving. Just like Ken, Oliver did not greet the crowd upon his approach to the line. Ken and Oliver both acknowledged each other with a nod. They took up their starting positions. The principal of the school, no less, got involved in the action, as he was the man who was to blow the whistle to signal the start of the race. When everything was in order and silence was among all spectators, and when both competitors were ready, the whistle was blown to start the race. A rocket launch and a jet blasted off like a flash, and before the crowd had even begun to roar again, Ken and Oliver went neck and neck at 20 metres. They had barely even found their stride as they thundered towards 50 metres like lightning. These two literally could not be separated. They were like conjoined twins as they tore past 100 metres. There was still nothing between them, and now their techniques and speed had peaked at the crucial time, racing towards 150 metres, and dead level as Oliver alters his stride as he falls to the ground, screaming with pain, holding the hamstring muscle on his right leg for dear life. Oliver is shaken on the ground in agony. He has clearly torn a muscle in his leg. Ken O'Callaghan is sprinting towards victory beyond 150-metre mark, nodding towards the crowd whilst waving both his hands back and forth as he slows down in his approach to the winning line. He continues to slow down, ironically as fast as he can, and stops just a few short meters from the line. He turns away from the winning line and runs back up to check on Oliver's well-being. The audience are stunned. King proclaims to the crowd, "I am not accepting victory as a result of an injury to my opponent." Will we ever find out just who the better man is, or was it simply fate's way of history telling the future that there will be no better men?
Thank you, Daniel. We are going to go on Zoom now. We have Fionn.
Thanks very much. I'll just read one poem. It's a pandemic poem. The title is Murder. What would happen to the flocks of crows if they all suddenly had to work from home? No travelling for miles to the morning gatherings, forced to self-isolate on lonely tree branches. Would they start feeling blue, inadequate? I'm just a bad crow, I always knew it. Would doomed thoughts take over their souls? Might some of them Google how to be a good crow? When it was all over, there'd be a great reunion. Loud crow socializing as instinct and medicine. Fond crow insults and the best crow banter. Diving and swooping, the wind in their feathers. The affectionate sounds of crow-to-crow care. Regurgitating stories, jokes, dinner. Thank you.
Thank you, Fionn. We'll have two more Zoom members later, but we have Patricia Walsh next.
Thank you. This is called Pressurized Container. Walking through windows, fixing the glare, mere summer's reckoning on the perfect track, continuously surmining the sensation. Recycled scenarios rumbled to another purpose, watching rare flowers be plucked and gone. Parking recriminations and evicted beauty, sordid cover versions keeping the masses sweet. Some induced debt runs through the massive, the mild thunderstorm rolls to the shallow end. One extra commandment loved ever once, the not bring exercise curses its young. Rising over fault, the dark midday of giving over, the salted sweet things, the best of a bad lot, consistent God talk exposing trite divisions. Demon possessed are just another bad joke, the closest to alcohol and a perfected day. The singular cold suffered through bedtime, cracking open skulls to gather information. The hassle-free existence is all that is hoped for. Exercise for sound, the bigoted call-out. Each to one's own business, ending too well. Finishing with sleep, the costume jewelry theme, overdressed for expensive, run-ins for favour. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Susana Trevilletti.
First of all, this week was Margaret's birthday, so we should sing an happy birthday song. Okay? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Margaret. Happy birthday to you. Okay, so this is a poem I wrote for my great aunties. It's called Summer Afternoons. My childhood is a small triangle of light, an enclosed wild garden where the nettle is high and the Judas tree looks back at you. I do not remember how many steps I needed to crawl to my great auntie's kitchen, but I can feel the roughness of the wood under my bare feet while her voice leads me upstairs. She's the captain of my boat, the loud voice who knows how to grow tomatoes with no water and when to harvest grapes without touching them. Her nose always into someone else's business. And her shirt is bright white under the red lipstick. No ring on her fingers and no safety belt while she drives. I sit on her side, pulling the foam out of the hot plastic seat of the old Renault. A new chapter of the Odyssey is unfolding from her smoky lips while driving in the dry river in the summer afternoons. The car bounces and bumps while we laugh and scream, and the apricots fall from the basket in the back seat. We'll eat the dirt too. The femme fatale Circe turned Ulysses into a pig after he refused their love, him and his whole crew. I see Ulysses as a tall, hairy, beardy man with bad clothes and a sweet breath, like the fisherman we met at the beach where Ulysses faced Charybdis. A world of sirens, dark and untouched, is left unsung by the poets. Where are the women in the fairy tales when the male completes his quest? They're making fried aubergines and stuffed olive that will feast in my mouth. I lose my shoes. She buys me sandals, red little sandals that make my feet bleed. I keep them with me in my sleep.
Thanks very much. Can we have Katie Myers next up?
I am Susan. I'm too short for this, I'm very sorry. So the poem I'm going to read today is Sherlock Line, The Portal to Divine. Just a disclaimer, I am dyslexic, so if I read something a bit badly, don't mind me. Just to let you know as well, the Sherlock Line is a road between Blarney and kind of coming up to the straight road. That's just, yeah, anyway. The Sherlock Line, The Portal to Divine. This grey road mingles into the intertwining green limbs of the mossy trees overhead. Our beastly beige car navigates the course of the free-flowing river, all flowing with the Sherlock Line. The road, that grey snake of progress and the urban, making its mark on the once unspoiled undergrowth, making its mark on it and me with cause and effect along the Sherlock Line. Those wooden forms stand like those who first invaded them, tall and erect, deeper from green to gold to the setting sun, twigs and branches, greet me like an old friend coming home. Those human forms blur in the cold grey sky. Leaves of what is left from the other side fall. Deeper from the grey to the white of that smile. Arms greet me like an old friend coming home. Which is the entrance and which is the exit? Which is the better end? This portal has many twists and turns, trials and tribulations. I learn from the grey of concrete structures and the people that make it gold. Green is where I come from. I have observed its treasure. Monsters of elf and man reside, heroes of these creatures also, brown or gold. Which is which? On the Sherlock Line. Grey and emerald come as one. Contrary is that fact. Green and grey are my ink and my actions. Leaf and brick am I. Portal to the divine. As you and I, dear brother, ride on the shimmering Sherlock Line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, can we have Augustina, please?
Hey.
I think you missed Marcel, but thank you. So this piece, let me bring it back up, is about the insensitivity that we sometimes have when trying to give comfort or encouragement to people. And this one is called God Tests. It's another one of my ranty ones. So here we are. See, when a person is repeatedly beat up by someone they love, you don't tell them they beat you because they love you and want to hear your voice and your begging and pleading. You don't say that because if you do, it sounds sick, sadistic, and unhelpful. But somehow, when it comes to faith, we say shit like that. When people are on the ground and crawling through shards of glass, sitting in the middle of a burning house, drowning in a lake full of monsters, we say it and think it will be helpful. God tests those who he loves, eh? To see a person struggling, arms out begging for help, lost everything, including their hope, a total mess. It comes the knee-jerk reactionary comment that we use to stop ourselves from truly relating. We run away from the difficult emotions and acknowledgement of the other person's truth. With such passiveness and confidence, apparently trying to be encouraging, responding with, it's because God loves you. Because he loves you, he wants to hear your cries for help, huh? That's why you'll never really have peace, and you will continue to have rocks thrown at you, even as you can't walk anymore. With hardship, there is ease, you're told. You're not allowed to complain, rightfully moan, and you'll be titled ungrateful. Is it really ease? Or have we just been swimming for so long that we've gained really strong muscles? Or do we just expect hardship so it doesn't bother us like it used to anymore? Or perhaps we're okay with the little things because we've been deprived from the bare minimum for majority of our lives. But when you express your frustrations, you're shut down with accusations of being angry at God. You'll be told that everything is your power. Everything in your life is a consequence of the decisions that you've made. They'd soon say, don't blame God, but in the same breath say, he controls and knows everything. Quite amusing, actually. Thank you.
Thank you, Augustina. Next up on the list, we have Kieran McCartan.
Thanks, Pastor. I'm just going to make an announcement there before I go. We're putting together a festival that's happening in Glengarve on the third weekend of August, so it's from the 19th to the 21st. And there's a good few heads dotted out throughout the room who are going to perform at it, and we're going to have a speaker's corner type of thing. So if you have poems in your pocket, you can bang them out. But it's on, down in the Caha Mountains outside Glengarve, and if you're interested, talk to me about it after, and you can email showcollective15@gmail.com. Is the name of the email address. It's called Only Your Footprints. This is a poem. It's called You. You may know a lot about the world, but you don't say fuck it enough. Climbing the walls, seeing chandeliers in blurs, talking in a frantic voice, motoring through the curve of your words. You ought to say fuck it more. You scratching your head in disbelief at how chaotic life is, how rhythmical strife is, The true joy in a good laugh. Say fuck it, and you'll be as happy as that fiend typing fuck it in the teleprompter. Saying fuck it, will I leave it? Saying fuck it, they could do with hearing it. Saying nada, I don't have it, I'm not giving it, not today. Thanks.
Thanks, Kieran. Next up, we have Kieran Rafferty.
Hello, good to be back, Loville. This is about feeling a bit stuck when you're really probably doing really well, but you just feel like you're stuck and you can't get out of it. It's called slicing red onions. I hear it calling me. It sways on the surface, it swims through the sea. If all the angels, the demons, the trees release the heather comes stalking at your feet. What goes around, leave it off for weeks. How profound the brightness in the bleak, carry all the likeness the souls around may seek. The toll paid in coppers in vain, I only want to rewind, I only want to rewind. Stare into distance, stare into green, care less the more they show up on the screen. With their suits and boots must be a ruse, this conscience clean, this surface seen. Chew on the truth, few and far between. I see you in me and 2 in 3. Same old ding dong, I feel I'm stuck in prison playing ping pong. Showing how this town drinks your sorrows and swallows your crown, borrows your ups and leaves you down. Guess it's all perspective, your cup's half full, you clown. I sharpen my knives, meditation. I gather the spices. I chop the chilies, I chop the garlic, I chop the ginger, I slice red onions, so fine.
Thanks a million. We now have Antonio Di Mare.
Hi, this is called Red Bricks. The wind moves the tiny filaments of the Villeda mop upside down. Some are dirty, some stuck to others. An opening is created between one and the other. In the opening beyond the balcony, you can see a small house. Guardian trees watch it closely. A tongue of green all around celebrates the mild July sun. A human figure leads the dog out, stops, challenges every concept of movement. The dog walks away. The small house in the distance is made of red bricks. The outline of the window is white. Along the left edge of the house, there is a wall game of brown roofs, unaware of any kind of rush, sluggish as the tiny filaments of the Villeda mop, waiting for the next wash. Thank you.
Thanks, Antonio. If there is no one else who wants to go after, then this will be the last poet. Now we have Massimo Elijah online.
Always a great honor to be here, and thanks for having me. And I take this moment of gratitude, not because I'm supposed to, but because I'm glad to. Surrounded by life and a love I hold fast to. a lifeline I hold dear and keep my life fastened to, like a spring I am tapped to, with memories like snapshots of pages I've passed through, or pastures with pathways I make my way back through. I know that I can't, but I try until the day when I can finally just see I don't have to. Time I have burned through, space I have crashed through, a whole life behind me, but it's always this moment I am back to. The present is the reference my attention must be snapped to. But I still remember there were heavens in my past too. Things change, that's true. But the sun I see today is still the same sun whose light my first day of life was cast through. And it's still the same sky with vast hues of fat whites and vast blue. And these are still the same eyes that all times have flashed through. Every day is a miracle. It may not seem that new, but the fact that the world lasts means I must last too. So much we have lasted through. So much we have lasted through. Matter of fact, it's too much for contemplation. The chaos from the explosions of the storms of creation, the rise and fall of species and the rise and fall of nations, the mercilessness of matter and the body's complications, a trillion ways that errors permutate and combinations that would make today impossible by all our computations. Yet, after all we have lasted through, I can still sit at home a million miles away and just rap with you. So, thank you. Peace.
We love you, Massimo. Thanks so much. Listen to that. What a buzz. What a buzz. Lovely. Thanks, everybody. Are we missing anyone out if we close up the open mic now? That's fantastic. We're all included, so. Brilliant. So let's give a huge applause to all of us and to the guest poets once more. Did you want to go? Did you want to go on? Did you? Okay, all right. We'll have one more person. Okay. Well, let's do the clapping for the guest poets while we wait. That was Richie Mccaffrey and Rosamund Taylor. And it was a lovely evening all together. Fantastic being in person as well. After this event, we will go to Mainz. Whoever wants to come along, hang out for a chat and peter out the rest of the night. Well done, Sue. Well, thank you very much. It's always an honor to be asked. Right, and has she found? No pressure there. Loads of pressure. Is it happening? Okay, that'll be next time. Right. Thanks very, very much also to the Hayloft and to our lovely Bar Lady and to the Long Valley altogether, and obviously to Paul as well. See you at Mainz.